Nick Mullen is so fucking funny, dude.
Dude, I cannot hold it in any longer. Yesterday, I actually had a civil conversation with a dumb bitch, is what I'll call her. And It was this rainbow-colored hair person that came in about looking like late 30s with a piercing that went through her lip. I don't mean to judge people off of their looks, but that is something I'm going to look at. And I did notice those things about her, and I did think that maybe I knew her opinions before I started asking questions.
Sounds like the last 2 chicks I had sex with.
Ew. Well, fucking anyways, we actually had a civil conversation, and I was very proud of her for not like losing her mind on me or anything, because there was plenty of times that could have happened. And like the bartender just loves me, and like we talk like all the time, basically whenever I'm there.
So this was at the comedy club?
Yeah. Okay. And fucking she the Arch Society. But anyways, like she's sitting there kind of listening, and like I don't know what I said, and I was like, oh yeah, like women are I know what I said. Women are really incentivized to leave like a marriage. So like they're damned to fail at the beginning if one person is signing into something that's going to fuck them. And she was like, that's not necessarily the truth. And I said, statistically it is the truth. And she was like, well, do you have the statistics to back that up? And I said, I can't quote them off the back of my head, but I definitely can pull something up right now if you want to see it. Like we could look it up, or you could look it up, like what the divorce statistics are. Cause I know one is like 80% of the time women leave, and there's no way that 80% of the time one group would be doing something if there wasn't an incentive for them to be doing it. Yeah. And it's like,
that'd just be nonsensical.
Yeah, that wouldn't make any sense.
Women are logical, right?
It's either women are just out of their mind, or it's built for them. And I think that it's because the marriage thing, like back whenever we were like making the government and shit, was like a much more realistic. It was like realistic then that a woman was going to not work in her life and just be the housewife. And so it's like if a dude leaves, fucking make sure she's straight. Guy. And it's like, you can't just like hook them up. Like
goodbye, honey. Never going to see you again.
Yeah. You can't let that guy get away. But like now we're at a time that women are making like as much as men, if not a little bit more. Well, in some areas they're making more. They like to throw out the fucking wage gap, which is also a fucking myth.
Dude, they have done that like 4 times in my African culture and societies class, because my African professor keeps asking these chicks. I swear he's trolling them, because he's always like borderline laughing at the shit that they say, which is so funny.
He's like, you think there's a wage gap?
He's like, so do you think in this country that men and women actually get paid different? And he's got like the funniest smile when he's asking it, and they're like, yes, women get paid way less. And
I felt, we don't think, we know it's true.
Dude, I felt like such a like cringe, like Jordan Peterson fag for being like having to raise my hand and be like, most of the reason why that happens is because of the differences in agreeableness between men and women.
That's one reason.
Types.
There's like literally Jordan Peterson is discussed. Like there's hour-long conversations with him and like dumb bitches that'll sit there and try and match up with a man brain, which you can't do that. Stop, dumb bitches. You look silly at the end of it. But fucking, they would sit there and argue with them and be like, you think that the wage gap doesn't exist? And he's like, no, I think that there is a difference in the pay, but I think that there are far more reasons that are beyond gender that go into that. And then he said, but there are some that do have to do with gender, and agreeableness is more of a womanly trait, and that's because they have to be willing to raise a baby after it comes out. And men are not very agreeable, and if I had one, I'd probably spike it if it kept on crying.
Oh my God.
And fucking, that's why women are a little bit more agreeable than men, and I mean, they're not built to be in the workforce as much as men are. We're supposed to be out there being expendable. That's one thing.
So we're working on oil rigs and shit.
Men are choosing jobs like that are fucking dangerous as fuck. And
there's a bunch of dudes in like fucking North Dakota and Minnesota making like $140K a year, but they work like 90 hours a week and are on the fucking oil rigs for like
most of their life. Yeah, the rig pigs they call them.
Really?
Yeah, whenever they're out to sea. I mean, sometimes like that. Like my cousins,
the ones out in the ocean are even worse than the ones that are just out in the middle of nowhere on land.
I've seen a video of a dude that was like on one of those, like, I guess they have a lot of areas where you're like chained up, or like, I don't know if it's like some sort of strap where they're lowering you down and shit, or like you can just be off the deck. And like someone was recording like off of an offshore rig, and he was like, this is how dark it is. And he has his flashlight on. You don't see anything. Yeah. And you don't know, like, I think you can see like how far down the water is, but that's like it. And it's like, Jesus Christ, dude.
This shit is... I hate the ocean, to be honest.
Yeah, me too. I don't fuck with it at night. But fucking, I have to get back to the dumb bitch.
Yeah,
I brought up that divorce thing.
Sorry.
No, that's all good. I brought up the divorce thing, and she's like, that's not necessarily true. And we were talking about that for a little bit, and like, eventually, I was like, most women, or she said that women, whenever they make more, they usually have to pay. And I was like, well, one, most of the time, whenever women make more, they're going to leave and they end up paying a lot less than a man would. And two, most of the time women aren't with men that don't make less than them. And she's like, oh, I find that very hard to believe. And I was like, no, women want to be with somebody that's making more than them. Like, they don't want to have to sit there and like support him. And then Jess jumped in and she's like, he's right. I don't want to be with someone that makes less than me. And like, she's like, I want them to take care of me. And I was like, yeah, I know. That's because Jess is like in her 40s and she's like a MILF. And like, she's actually out there trying to get like a dude that's going to make money and like take care of her. This chick was a little bit younger and like not as attractive as Jess. And she was thinking like, I don't know. Like, I think women won't get it until they're like in their 40s and then dudes don't want them at all. That they're like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to just hate on this chick. I'm also high as fuck. But fucking. So we're talking about that. Jess jumped in and like was on my side. And she's like, you have a really low opinion of women. And I was like, yeah, I do. And she like looked dumbfounded. And I was like, I have a really low opinion of men as well. I'm just not trying to fuck them. So I have no interest in what they're doing. That's my line pretty much. Because that's literally what it is. And she was like, well, I guess I can agree on that. And like, we were talking about it. And I was like, I'm just curious. What's your opinion on like transgenders competing in sports? I didn't even get to go to Leah Thomas because like the open mic ended up starting. But then I brought up Fallon Fox. I was like, what do you think about Fallon Fox beating up people? And she was like, oh, well, I've actually read studies that say that you have muscle dystrophy whenever you're taking your hormones and stuff. And I was like, I don't know if that's true, but I can tell you that you have a thicker bone density. And she's like, no, but people have different bone densities just genetically. And I was like, but men genetically have thicker bone densities than women. And like, I was trying to explain that to her and she's like, but there could be women that have thicker bone densities than men. And I was like, no. And I pointed out this dude, Michael. I was like, look at Michael. He's very skinny. There's two fat bitches behind me. I could have used them as an example, but I didn't because I'm a nice person. And I was like, he's very skinny, but if we found the biggest woman that you wanted to, his bone density, we know that it's going to be thicker than hers. And she just wanted to be disagreeable on that part. And I was like, oh, maybe she is a fucking real transgender. She is disagreeable as fuck. But I was like, whatever, fucking, we're talking about that shit. And she's like, oh, well, you get muscle dystrophy. It's literally destroying your body and rebuilding it. And I was just like, have you seen like the Fallon Fox thing and brought it up? And she's like, no, I've heard about it. And I don't know why people are so upset. And I was like, have you seen it? And she's like, no, I haven't seen that particular fight. And I was like, well, let me tell you, I've seen it and it's pretty fucking brutal. It's not any like, and I was like, and let me tell you, I watched UFC. I'm going to keep saying, let me tell you, but I was like, I watched, let me tell you, I'm going to smile more. But I was just like, fucking, I watched the UFC and I've seen some brutal knockouts and like, I don't have an issue with that. But like, this was not like someone getting outclassed. Or not even like Jorge Masvidal when he knocked out Ben Askren. It's not like that because that was a dude preparing and being ready. It's literally like a man's strength beating up a woman.
Yeah.
Like,
it's not fair.
We just watched it before this as well. And fucking like, there was multiple times where like the girl would throw a punch and then fucking Fallon Fox would literally just throw an arm up and not even like try and do like any sort of block. And like, her strength just would like deflect it and the girl's arm would just like bounce back. Yeah. She would have her like wrapped up in guard and fucking Fallon Fox would just stand up and break it instantly because her legs weren't able to support that.
When she's trying to wrap her legs around her and like lock her fucking feet together, it was like she couldn't even do it because he was so wide.
Dude, and those fucking...
She was so wide.
Those fucking punches... Yeah, we have to be careful about that because apparently dead naming is dead ass like the top form of hate speech, and you can actually get like banned off of any sort of
dead naming?
Dead naming is if we called Caitlyn Jenner Bruce.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, we can't call that fucking nigga that beats up chicks a guy. But fucking Fallon Fox, dude, that was just crazy to me that like she was like trying to not acknowledge it. And I wanted to bring up Leah Thomas because I was like, that was a man that was 560 something and then was a woman and was not even close, destroyed every other woman. And like, she's like, oh, but what about that transgender woman that went in the Olympics and didn't win it for the women? And I was like, I mean, there's some strong bitches out there. And like I can't speak to that. Like, I guess that the dude fucking, if it was a loser and the dude thing and went over to the women, probably not going to be a winner automatically. I don't know about that, but it's like, all right, calm down on that. Like, you just, like,
finding any exception.
To me, I'm just like, it's literally you accepting, like, women getting the shit kicked out of them for the purpose of a genetic man.
Yeah, it's like literally men making a mockery of women's sports at a certain point.
Oh, I remember how it actually started. She was talking about, like, women in the workforce, and, like, just like, yeah, I just don't want to work. And I was like, I swear that's the funniest co-op that men have ever pulled off, to trick women into going and do work. And I was like, imagine the first dude that was smart enough to say, oh, honey, you go out and do all the hard work. I'm going to stay home and, like, just take care of the kids. And she was like, that's when she was like, you have a really low opinion of women. And I was like, yeah. And then brought up the fact that I also had one of men. And then fucking we got into the whole thing. But, like, the end of it, I was just like, ugh, like, she is, I don't know what study she read, and I wish I had more studies on hand, because I would have destroyed her. I wish Joe Rogan was there, because he would have destroyed her. Fucking it just, like, it was so, I shouldn't think like that. Like, it's so messed up that when I get in conversations with people, I'm like, I want to destroy this person.
No, I mean, I hate when people are just talking about all, like, those specific hot topics and just being brain dead about it. Like,
oh, and I said, I think that men and women are different. Do you agree? And she was like, yeah, we're different on some bases and the same in others. And I was like, yeah, we're the same in, like, that we're human. And, like, I was like, we're pretty much different in, like, most other ways than that. And, like, now, literally, if we went into it, you could be like, oh, well, I have lips, you have lips, and, like, fucking. Yeah. But, like, I was like, men want to do different things than women. That's why you see more men engineers than women. And she's like, well, I'm actually a woman engineer. And I was like, okay, well, I'm sure you're the exception rather than the rule. I was like, do you work with mostly men or women? And she's like, actually, it's 50-50. And I was like, oh, really? It's 50-50 perfectly. I was like, do you think that was natural, or do you think that was because of a quota? And she's like, oh, well, actually, my company doesn't do quotas. And I was like, yeah, I'm sure it doesn't. And, like, I was just like, whenever you're coming up in college, did you see more men in the engineering classes or women? She's like, actually, I saw more women in them. And I was just like, all right, well, this bitch is lying. And I'm like, I can't have a conversation with a psychotic person that's just so willing to be right that they'll lie about something. Because, like me, I love being right, but I hate lying about it, because then you look really stupid later whenever they realize you were lying to do that. And then they're going to call you out for not only being wrong, but then also for being a liar. But it's just like, women in general, I hate whenever I do these high and then realize the fuck ups I'm doing it while I'm doing it. But fucking women are the people that I see a lot of dudes doing it as well, but I see most women that are okay with lying just to try and win an argument. And I'm like, what is up with you?
Yeah, this shit's dumb as fuck.
Women fucking suck. But on that note, we're going French Revolution, baby. I love,
women actually did start that.
The French, well, women being annoying finally paid out for them. Thank you, women, for being. I'm not gonna berate them for their nature. It's nature versus nurture. I mean, we nurture them into thinking it's okay to be fat when they're pregnant, but it's in their nature to be annoying. But fucking the French Revolution. Basically, I watched a podcast on it and thought I was an expert because it was like 20 parts, and I'm not even done with it. And then you told me, I started showing you a video, and you're like, oh, I actually took a French Revolution class, and we fucking chopped it up for like an hour about that shit.
Those videos were hella good too.
Dude, I know. It was like so, like basically to start out, the French Revolution, the French expanded kind of quickly, and like they wouldn't like with America, we started off as the 13 colonies and then adopted more states and shit. Like, that's kind of what the French were doing around their area. Like, they would give out lordship and shit to people and, like, they had it separated into a bunch of different areas. Like, it wasn't, like, one overruling, well, it was, like, the king was over it all, but, like,
it was pretty decentralized for, like, monarchy, like, compared to all the past monarchies.
Like, there was fucking different counties and shit, and, like, they would be fighting with each other and shit at certain points, and, like, they lived in different ways and shit, didn't see each other as, like, the same, and it was also broke up into, like, a bunch of different, like, I don't know what they're called, but it was, like, religious sectors where, like, they would be able to go and also take tithes from those people, which was, like, another tax, and, like,
yeah, fake. Yeah,
people were, like, kind of chill with that for a little bit. But then they, like, realized that, like, the people that were higher up, like, the monarchy and, like, the king and, like, fucking the queen and like the rich people were all just like kind of partying and shit.
The second estate.
Yeah, the second estate. Because we got to get into that later, I guess. But fucking people didn't like the queen at that time. They actually fucking hated her because she was Austrian.
Yeah, and they thought she was hella frivolous.
Yeah, they're like, this girl, she's a bitch. And
they
like,
equally disrespected the king, though, talking about his cock not working and shit, and that's why he plays with his clocks.
Dude, because fucking Louis the 16th was like a kid king, and like he took over when he was like 13, I'm pretty sure. Like very young.
So scuffed.
I know, and like it would just be people around him like really controlling it, or his mom or something, but like he would be like next in line as soon as he was like old enough.
Just joking off.
Yeah, and they married Marie Antoinette like to combine the two because France and Austria didn't really like each other.
That was like a plus political opinion maneuver.
Yeah, they were like, well, if we have like a monarch that's over there for you and like you guys are kind of related to us, like we can help you in the future, which will come back to bite them in the ass. That will not help them.
Yeah.
It'll end up very bad. But they didn't like her. And like Louis the 16th, they didn't like him either because he's like just a dumbass kid. He went hunting all the time, fucking playing with his clocks. They're literally making fucking like political cartoons about his dick not working.
Yeah.
And like you wouldn't think that would fly, but like they're just like, all right, whatever, I guess. Pick our battles. And like eventually France just like ran out of their money. Like not eventually. They were out of money. I don't know the exact year, but for a long time. And I think the last thing that really nailed it in the coffin was the Revolutionary War. They came over and helped America. And like we're in debt now, America, but we're also the main superpower and we have all the shit we need here. So like at the end of the day, we're pretty much good. But like you can't oh my God, I just had a brain fart. What was I talking about?
The French basically loaning us hella money during the Revolutionary War.
We could jump in a war when we're in debt and it won't sink us. But the French had no money back then and they didn't have everything they needed. So they needed to have money. And
they had negative money.
Yeah. And they're like, we can spend a fuck ton. Like whenever you're doing a war with someone, you're not directly sending money to them, but like, you got to pay the people in the ships that are going to take people over there. You got to pay for the food and shit that's going to have to go supply them and the bullets and the guns. And then you're going to have to pay it to keep that like open flow of traffic across an entire ocean. And they're like, yeah, we'll do it. Like they had to see us win a major battle first. That could be a later Revolutionary War topic, but they really didn't want to join us until they were like, we see that they can do something. Yeah. And then eventually we slapped the British.
The Vegas odds got a little better. They dropped a live bet.
They're licking their chops and they're like, we could embarrass the fuck out of England and make them lose their colonies.
Yeah.
And we can have a new ally in America and it'll be cool. And then we'll get our money back for sure from America after we help them. They'll be so thankful. There's people that didn't like taxes to England. Like they'll probably pay some taxes to us for a little bit, maybe. Like that wasn't an idea. Like it wasn't in stone or anything, but they are thinking maybe. And they're like, all right, well, we can go help them. And like they had like, this is another part of France. They're crazy as fuck. Like they're like women with their money. Like fucking, they would hire a financial person to come help them. And like, they'd be like, we are insanely out of money. Like actually there's a guy that got fired because he was like, dude, please don't go in the Revolutionary War. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know names as much. I know like the actions that they did. But like there was like 3 people that they brought in. One was a guy from Switzerland and they hated him because he was Protestant and like a normal person and like also a foreigner. But like they were trying to, every one of them basically was just like, dude, every one of them except for one was like, dude, this isn't going to work. And like the one guy that got to serve for a while was the guy who was like, oh, this is working awesome. And like, just like,
they're like, oh yeah, okay, cool.
We love that. And we were talking about it and there was like 2 types of like charges. Like you were telling me that you read the thing, but it was like the charges that, are like, I forgot what the dude's name was, but he like, did like an audit of the government. Mm-hmm. And like, there was the ordinary expenses and then the extraordinary expenses, which is like, I forgot what it was, but it was like all the things that they owed to people, like giving people money around the like different areas to appease them and keep them a part of France. Different people getting money from like modern day pensions and shit. And like a lot of money that the king was spending. And they're like, we're going to count that as extraordinary. Yeah. And that's not going to be on this. We're doing the ordinary things, which is like our debts for war. And like, we're also going to count all of our loans as like positives over here in our like like on our debts, because we're gonna get that, and like we'll address the debt of paying that later. That's extraordinary.
Yeah, the king was like very nice.
Yeah, he's like, we have a lot of money. See, I knew that last guy was a piece of shit, and like fucking everyone read it, and like a lot of people like back in the day were saying like that was the first thing that they read, like how they learned to read was that
really,
yeah, because they're like, we want people to see this, that we're good.
Yeah.
Because like people were getting mad, and they're like, the last two niggas that we fired are saying we're dead broke. So what's going on here? And this guy's like, guys, no, we're not dead broke. Here, look, and then shows everyone, and like is taking it around everywhere, and they're like, oh, okay. See, I knew that guy was fucking Jewish or something. Jesus Christ, he was trying to steal our money. Can you believe that guy? And then like eventually they realized like, all right, I think we're fucked, and they brought in the other guy that was good, and he was like, he
wrote a fat ass thing deconstructing every part of like all of their debts and how fucked it was, and they were like,
liar. They didn't believe him. Like whenever
he actually kept his job for a little while.
Yeah, because one of the guys, like the second guy, I believe, the Switz guy, he got sent away, and then they brought in the third guy that was like, oh, it's all good, and then they brought him back because the people were like, all right, we are out of money.
Yeah, we need actual information.
And like this is kind of jumping around in time. Like we're going through different timelines, but like the reason people realized that they were going through inflation and shit is because they had a very cold winter. Well, there was a bread tax, which fucked them over basically. Like if people wanted to transport bread and shit, like different goods, they would have to pay taxes in between like every way. And that
did a bunch of frivolous ass taxes.
Yeah, and like fucking whenever I was saying like it was broke up earlier, each section had its thing. So like if a guy's bringing bread like across like 7 different things, he's likely gonna have to pay taxes across 7 different things, and you're gonna have to pay that tax to that guy. And like he's probably gonna
insane. Yeah,
and like the same thing with the religious things. So like people were like, all right, this is getting really annoying. Like the people that have like jobs like that, the second estate, are fucking, they're making a lot of money and they're fine, but we're losing money. And then they're like, they made something to where I was like, all right, it has to be a solid price. And then certain areas had famines because fucking there would be a drought, or like, well, actually specifically a fucking volcano in Iceland erupted and then sent a bunch of volcanic ash in the sky, and it actually killed a bunch of their cattle.
The season.
Oh yeah, and like it's actually sent us into something that they call the Little Ice Age, and like fucking French people got fucked by that because like and
they refused to grow potatoes.
Did they?
Dude, yeah. Like I actually read like a little like historical fucking study article, I guess, in that class, where it was a guy talking about how like French people's culture fucked them in that famine.
Because they were literally just like no potatoes?
Yeah, because they had like potatoes introduced to them like shortly before the like all that shit went down, because like a couple of other countries in Europe had gotten them from Ireland, I guess, and survived famines from them. They're like, guys, this is actually pretty fire. The French are like, no, that's like retard food. We're not going to eat potatoes.
The Russians took potatoes and they made it their bitch. They fucking made vodka from that.
Yeah, just get hammered and then you don't get hungry. You just pass out in the snow and wake up in the morning.
Dude, I watched a video about that the other day.
Light a fire.
I watched the video about that the other day, that it was like Russia has a serious alcoholism problem where people are just like making their money just to get alcohol to get fucked up.
Even nowadays?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
Throughout history, that's been an issue for them. But fucking, they had like no money to get the bread. Because like, they put a tax where they're like, not a tax, but they're like, you got to make it an equal price. And then people couldn't afford it in their areas, so they had to buy it from other areas. And they're like, okay.
And they'd hella poach that shit.
They're like, you guys understand, we do have to charge a little bit more, right? And like, yeah. And then whenever it gets to them, they're like, that is a lot of bit more. And it's like,
and then they'd start killing the bakers, because the bakers were buying the expensive ass grain and then making expensive ass bread. And they're like, what do you want me to fucking do about it?
Dude, yeah. And they'd be like, oh, fuck this. I'm not going to have them eating bread and then me being starving. And that's actually how it fucking started. Yeah, that's later. We gotta build up to that, though. Fucking people are furious because they're starting to run out of money. They're like, we don't have money, do we? And the reason they really noticed it is because then they had like people that were the Parlement, that were basically supposed to be the people's people, but there were a bunch of rich guys that wanted to keep it the same to where they didn't have to pay taxes. They could get tax grants and shit. And then there was like the rich of the rich, which were like the old dynasty. And they were like, oh, well, we are about to get fucked. So we need mainly just the king and like the main monarchy was just like, we're running out of money because they started taking advice and they're like, we need to take away tax grants from these guys because they're the rich people. They actually need to pay them. And they're like, we want to keep it the same, but everyone thought the Parlement was like on their side. So they're like, we love the Parlement. And then the king was like,
then they just voted with the rest of the second estate against them.
Yeah. That was later on. General. Whenever they formed the Estates General, that was the fucking, basically there was 3 estates. It was like the fucking, what were they specifically? I know like one
the
was the
third estate was like the 98% of the population or 99% of the population. And that was like peasants all the way up to like wealthy middle class people, which became like a growing population around when the revolution started. And then the second estate was all of the noblemen and like the royalty and shit like that. And then the first estate was like all religious leaders and shit who like them and the second estate were just sucking each other's cocks, obviously.
They're like, all right, well, 1 vote for us because we're 1%, 1 vote for you because you're 0.5%, and 98%. You guys get 1 vote.
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't know about that one.
I guess that makes sense.
Fucking, dude, that's amazing. But people got riled up. They were tired of not getting bread. And then whenever they were getting bread, it used to be like 50% of what they had to pay, like of their entire money that they were spending on going to get bread. But then it became like 90%. And then it shot up to like 100% and they're spending all their money on bread. And whenever it got cold as fuck because of that volcano, which is why climate change that humans do doesn't matter because at any point in time a volcano could just fuck us up. But fucking... It got cold, and so they were spending all their money on bread instead of like heat and like lighting, and a lot of them died and didn't like it. And people, people are at a furious point. They're like, all right, we gotta come together, and they're not talking about revolting or anything. They're just like, we gotta come together and we gotta fucking change this. This is not cool. And like, they're like, no. And then people actually started like doing violent shit. Like there was something called the Day of the Tiles where the Parlement had like riled up the people so much and they're like, yeah, these are the people you need to be mad at. And then like, they started going to the dude's house and like destroyed it and I think killed the guy and his entire family. And then like the king was like, you need to go and tell them, like, he was like, you need to go to the Parlement. He's like, you need to go tell them to stop. And they're like, honestly, I didn't know they were going to do that. I don't even feel comfortable going to talk to them because they're going to kill us. And like tensions were rising everywhere and everyone's like, this isn't good. And then something called the Enlightenment kind of happens. And can you explain why that happened? Like the bar thing?
What thing?
What we were talking about the other day where it was like whenever people came together.
Oh, yeah. Literally just like there'd been no point in history up until then where like economic... Like, that was why the growing middle class and the third estate was so important. It's because they actually had, like, money and time from owning businesses and, like, being, like, merchants and, like, skilled laborers and artisans and shit. Unlike just being a peasant and toiling the fields 18 hours a day. They actually had time to, like, learn how to read and then, like, read shit from other places and then actually, like, sit around and fucking talk to other people. And then they started... opening bars and cafes and cities and shit. Dudes would just sit around and drink coffee and hella talk about shit and be like, isn't it weird how that guy just was like 13 and became king and like now we have to give them all of our money for some reason? And they were like, you know what? I was kind of thinking the same thing recently. And then they were all like, damn, there's hella people that all think the same shit. We can actually maybe do something about it.
Dude, at a certain point, King Louis XVI actually banned clubs like that because of that. Like, they would talk about shit, and he was like,
you guys aren't allowed to hang out anymore.
Yeah, he was like, stop that. Like,
shut down the clam.
He literally took the Discord server and just, like, shut it down. He's like, no more communicating. Mm-hmm. Like, he banned chess clubs, fucking cafes, shit like where people would go congregate and fucking kind of like they did during COVID. But fucking... Dude, we're actually gonna get taken off YouTube on some bullshit.
Yeah, but they got Tate Lord.
Yeah, they fucking got Andrew Tate off the internet. Well, off the YouTube. Fucking, I don't even see his like things anymore. I mean, I never really sought it out. I never sought it out,
but it was there.
That's what I'm saying. Is like it was in my face, and I would just be like, all right, I guess I'll watch this. And then it became a part of my algorithm. But then whenever he got taken off, like even
it's all gone.
Yeah, like even like because most of it wasn't his channel. It was just like dudes that were fucking.
Dude, did you see he went on like Pierce Brosnan's show?
Who?
Like, he was like a judge on like America's Got Talent and shit. He's like this British asshole. Or Pierce Morgan.
Pierce Morgan.
Yeah, not Pierce Brosnan. That was a James Bond actor. I'm retarded. All British people are the same. But he went on Piers Morgan's show, like I guess since he got canceled, and it was like the video that I saw was like Andrew Tate gets destroyed and humiliated on Piers Morgan's show, and it was literally just like Piers Morgan being a shitty host and like not letting him talk,
and he was just like
him being like respectful and like listening to what he was saying and trying to say stuff back, and then Piers Morgan saying like literally being like, so you're saying, and then saying the complete opposite of what he just said, and he's like, no.
Piers Morgan does that literally with everybody. I remember, like, I don't remember exactly who it was, but I think Ben Shapiro went over and, like, argued with him, and he did the same shit where he just, like, doesn't let people talk. I noticed that they think that's okay with those goofy accents, because there's these fucking clowns over in Australia that always, like, will have, like, go on, like, Fresh and Fit or, like, talk to Kevin Samuel, and, like, literally they'll be, like, actually civil to him, and then the Australians will just get mad and, like, hang up on them. Like, that's happened multiple times where they'll be like, I think you're being rude. And then just, like, be like, hang up on him. Hang up on him. Hang up on him. And then, like, there's multiple people there and they're not the ones in charge of hanging up. And then they'll just hang up. It's like a nice.
Wow.
But back to the French Revolution. Fucking now it started and people are pissed off. And what was it? There was a club that came together and they were, like, the most revolutionary. And they were like, oh yeah, the
Jacobins.
Yeah, they're the Jacobins, and they're like kind of the people's government because they're like they're not listening to us, and we only have one vote in the third estate, and this doesn't make any sense. So this is going to be the group of people that we kind of let say things, and they just came together that way, and like people were getting mad and shit, and the king kind of abdicated. He was like, I don't really want to die, and like made a bunch of reforms to where like. They're like, oh, you got to sign it to where you can't fuck us over with like certain taxes. Like basically made him give away all his control.
We skipped the part of how it started though.
Oh yeah. So basically a bunch of bitches got angry. They're furious. And like, they're like, we're going out to riot. Yeah. And the dudes were like, please don't do that. You're going to get fucking murdered. And the girls were like, I'm going out. I'm hungry. I'm not going to let them keep doing this. And the dudes were like, you know what? I'm sick of you. If you want to go die by yourself. I'm not going out there. And they're like, well, fuck you then. I'm going by myself. And he's like, have fun. And the women basically went out and started sacking a bunch of bakeries and like getting furious, taking bread and rightfully getting mad because they're starving.
Yeah.
And I guess there was a couple dudes that were like, oh, well, let's go see if my wife is fucking beheaded in the fucking street or like killed or whatever. Cause they're like, oh, there's gotta be some dead women here. They go and they see there's not dead women and that like the city is properly ransacked. And they're like, went and told all the dudes, this is made up, by the way, my opinion of how it started. And all the dudes were like, oh, well, now we're gonna go join too. And they made a 30-mile march down to the Versailles cause the king didn't stay in Paris. He stayed in Versailles. And so
which was also the construction of that was made up like a quarter of their entire national debt.
Wasn't it just like a beautiful castle that like fucking they set up just to be like a sign of wealth?
It's not really a castle so much as like a palace because French people aren't metal like that.
What's the difference between a palace and a
castle's like a defensive fortification?
Oh yeah.
Like,
and then a palace is just rich shit.
Yeah. Rich.
Oh. Damn. So then whenever people come, they have like no setup to stop them other than a bunch of people with fucking muskets.
Yeah.
Dude, but they showed up there and they're like, all right, well, we're going to go get them out. And like, I guess they're about to try and run away and the king negotiated with someone and they're like, you have to come back to Paris and live in Paris. And there's like a couple stipulations.
They completely destroyed Marie Antoinette's bedroom.
Yeah, they were looking for her. She got out through a secret tunnel.
Really? Mm-hmm. On her fucking president shit.
Yeah, that came back to bite her. Like the fact that they hated her. They're like, fuck this bitch. And like, they're like, you have to come. They made a couple demands, and the king was fine with all of them, except for like, he's like, I'm not moving out of here. I'm not going to Paris. And like, he sees the crowd getting mad, and they like killed a couple guards, and then he was like, is that their head on pikes? And he was like, okay, well, I guess I am going to Paris with you guys.
Yeah, so and then they moved to the Tuileries Palace.
They fucking switched over.
French people are disgusting.
They moved, but they weren't happy about it. And fucking, I believe there was some other government over there that was like, all right, well, if the king's over there, we got to go with them. I don't remember who it was, but fucking
his henchmen.
Yeah, that's whenever the king was like, basically gave away all his powers whenever they brought him back to Paris. And, they're like, all right, well, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. And he's like, oh, I definitely choose the easy way. Like 100% I'm doing the easy way. And like, fair play to him. I would have done that as well. And they're like, okay, well, you have no power. And he's like, oh. And then like, eventually the king got a little bit sick. The Jacobins are still growing, by the way. Like every little thing that he does is pissing them off more. And like, there's actually an agreement that the king was supposed to go to. This is before the revolution, where the nigga was literally sat up on like cushions and shit and fell asleep. And they're like, what a slap in the face. And like, I believe he dozed off during a man named Maximilian Robespierre's speech one time, and that did not go well for him.
Yeah, it was personal.
Yeah. And so the Jacobins have grown, and now the king and the queen are like, we should get the fuck out of here. You're Austrian, and you're like royalty. Like, if we go back, I think they were going to the Austrian Netherlands, so like Belgium, and they're like, all right, let's book. And like, they're probably going to get an army and come back, like to get their country back, because now they've been deposed. And they're like, I hate Paris. I don't want to be there. I would rather go back to my crib in Versailles. And like, they actually got stopped like 10 miles away from the border at some little town. And I guess they figured out who they were, and they dragged them back to Paris, and they got arrested. And they were in there for a little bit. They didn't do anything. I mean, if you know the French Revolution and you're listening to this, you might be excited for the beheadings, but that's not here just yet. It's not. But the Jacobins have now gained a massive amount of power, and the king is deposed, and there's like a kind of a power vacuum. And I think that there was another group of people that stepped into that power vacuum, and everyone was still starving, weirdly, because then they started being the rich people. And like you were saying about the churches, some people that were out in the country that were just peasants had nothing but their church.
Yeah.
Like that was it.
And their only hope in life was that God thinks that they were okay and actually has heaven for them once they die at 38.
But they destroyed the church, and like the church kind of destroyed itself. Like they actually came together during like one meeting, and like there was a bishop that was like, all right, well, we're going to get rid of royal hunting grounds, because like that was just for royals. And like, it was like, all right, we're going to make it public land. And like, there was one dude that was there that was like, all right, well then we're not going to pay tithes anymore, because he really liked to hunt. And like, he's like, we're not going to pay tithes anymore. And like, they're like, whenever they're in these meetings and the Jacobin meetings and shit, people are like trying to be the most revolutionary. Like, not that there's any sort of example of people doing that sort of shit now, but like, imagine if like some people that were just like the loud minority started speaking up and like saying something that like they thought was true, and then like the silent majority was like, oh, well, I mean, we'll go with that, because I'm kind of on your side more than I am these people, but like, whatever, we're with that. And then it becomes where they think that everybody else, because they're the silent majority, they think that the loud people have the strongest belief, and that's what everyone else around them believes. And then like, they're like, okay, well, I don't want to seem weird, so I'm just going to kind of go with that. And they just ride with it. But then they started cutting people's heads off. And then it became not just, I don't want to be with the group. They were afraid that they were going to get their head cut off. Yeah. And so everyone's like, at this point, the bishop is like, yeah, we need to get rid of the royal hunting grounds. This guy's mad. And like, they're like, I'm the most revolutionary. And like, that's whenever he throws out that. And then this dude's like, yeah, I'm the most revolutionary. I think we should get rid of tithing. And then bishop's like, normal, that's their form of money. They like that. Tithing is like whenever you give like I think 10 or 20% to the church. My mom does that. It's so stupid. I'm like, why are you giving free money to this thing? And I don't need to get into that right now. But anyways, like that's their main source of money. And the dude's like, can't step up and be like, no, dick. No, we're not doing that. He literally can't do that. And fucking, they throw these things out, and the Jacobins are now beheading people. We'll skip to that point.
Yeah, they took the king's head once they caught him, and then that's when it just went, the downward spiral into insanity began.
Dude, I want you to do me the honor of explaining Maximilian Robespierre, because he's my favorite character out of this.
He's basically... Because the Third Estate was obviously the Dick Don part of the States General and the representative of 98% of the population. And he was, like, by far the leader of, like, the revolution from, like, a political standpoint. And, like, the most powerful figure of the whole Third Estate, pretty much.
We forgot about Jean Marat.
We haven't gotten to... Okay, well, I guess he did start writing before it started, huh?
Explain who he is, and then we can go on his work about as it comes along.
Okay, Jean Marat is a professional bathtub-born fucking hater. Like, that dude literally lived in a bathtub and just wrote ignorant, hateful shit.
And when you say he lived in a bathtub, that's because he had a rare skin condition that I don't know what it was, but he literally was like in a tub. Didn't you say it was like a bathtub filled with like tea or something?
Dude, yeah. It was like some bullshit, and he would just soak in that all day and just write like the most inflammatory possible fucking statements.
Dude.
And published them, and he became like a folk hero.
He was like the reason they started beheading people, because he started saying like in his work, like he was literally the main
person. We need to kill people.
And it was like, you might think like, no way that we'd ever get to that. It wasn't like he was just saying we need to kill them for no reason, because then of course he'd be crazy. Yeah. But he had what sounded like a valid reason that ended up after the fact looking fucking crazy. And he's like, all right, hear me out, guys. We've arrested like a lot of the bad people. We're doing good, because they started arresting. Like whenever people were like, I don't want to be seen as not the most revolutionary. If someone said something, they're like, let's make it illegal to have anal sex with your wife. And then I step in and I'm like, no, guys, we're going too far. I'm locked away in prison now. I'm a political enemy.
Yeah, as you should be.
Exactly. And fucking, because I was out of the group, I'm a political enemy, and that's why people are scared. And like, Jean Marat's like, we've done a good job of locking up all the political enemies.
Yeah, because they stuffed the Bastille with like 15,000 political fucking traitors.
Yeah, fucking, dude, you know when I gotta get to that. Oh, we actually skipped it. The storming of the Bastille. They went and fucking... Well, before
That's what happened after they rolled Versailles. Well, I guess right before, in like the same crowd. And that was just a giant fortress prison that had like all of Paris's gunpowder in the bottom. And they boot gang that shit.
But the reason that they went to a gunpowder place, because dumbasses are fucking thinking, what are you going to do with a bunch of gunpowder and no guns? They actually had the guns, because before that they went and raided another base, and they like...
It was like a military hospital, and they stole all the blicks.
But whenever they got there and surrounded it, some people came out and were like, hey, we're actually on your side, some of us, and then some of us don't want to die for this cause, so we will definitely just give you all the guns. And they're like, awesome.
Yeah. And most of the military joined the Revolutionary Army, which is nuts.
Because they were the 98%. Like, they might have been, some of them were rich, but most of them were not. And they had families that were not. And they're like, fuck this. Like, they're dicks. And, like, they just gave them the guns and shit. And then they went to the Bastille, stormed that, took all the gunpowder. And, like, there was actually a little standoff for a little bit. Like, the guy that ran the Bastille was like, there's no way they're going to do anything. And he's like, send someone in. I'll fucking parlay with them. And he's like, all right. They sent in one of the representatives, and he was like, listen, you guys, if you don't disperse, I will blow this gunpowder up and kill all of us before I let you get it. And I guess he like looked out and saw that they were like beheading guards, and like he was like, oh, well, I guess we're good. And then they killed him and took his head and put it on the pike. And they marched that to the king, and that's when he was like, oh, this is a bit more serious than I knew.
Yeah.
And then they're like, yeah, we'll go with you to Paris. But fucking, anyways, what part were we at? I think we were at people being scared in the Jacobin club meetings, because they're like, I don't want to push any buttons.
Well, I didn't even finish describing fucking Robespierre. And we were talking about how they stuffed the prison, and like they were like, what are we gonna do now that the prison's stuffed with political prisoners? And John Marat's in his bathtub. He was like, easy, we kill them all.
He was like, Well, guys, if
they're going to conspire against us together in there.
Now that we have so many of them in there, they're probably going to want to come and get us back. So, good idea. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Kill the conspiracies and kill the conspiracy theorists. And everyone was like, yeah, that works. And then they started beheading people. And that's where the French Revolution really starts, where fucking people started like massively beheading. Because they were mainly on the same team. Like,
yeah, because that was like the spiral from where like the Third Estate basically took over the entire like governing responsibility. And I forgot what they changed the name to because I'm retarded.
It was like the legislative something, wasn't it?
I can't remember at all, but Robespierre was like the main fucking guy in that, and he literally went from being like the champion of the people to like a psychotic, insane person that just wanted all the power consolidated to him real quick. And he was the one that initiated like killing other people in the fucking legislative body,
because like Jean Morat had thrown him in the alley and he's like, this is what we should do. And Robespierre was like, I was hoping you would say that. And there was actually a guy, I forgot his name, his last name was Guillotine, but it was pronounced guillotine in French, I guess, because it's a stupid language. And he created this super awesome invention where like it was a tilted blade, sideways wooden contraption, had like a little hole where you could stick a head through and like gaze out, look at the stars, and then the blade comes down with a big force and cuts your head off. Mm-hmm. Cool fact about beheadings, apparently back then people would like, they'd be like, when I'm about to get beheaded, if I am still alive afterwards, I'm going to blink. And they'd cut someone's head off and it'd be like, and then they'd be like, ugh, and then it would just go, die.
Yeah.
Didn't you say that people were doing their ABCs after that too?
Not actually, but like they figuratively could have said their ABCs. They're like,
oh my god.
Yeah, like a fish out of water.
Because it's literally like your brain and shit is all up here, and I bet it takes a second for it to realize it doesn't have blood.
Yeah.
It probably has a little bit of blood. Dude, that goes
just so clean, because the blades weighed like 500 pounds or some shit.
Damn.
Yeah, and that's why they fucking put work in like that.
Dude, holy fuck. I mean, if you have a 500-pound blade, Chekhov's gun, come on, guys. We fucking talked about this last week. Chekhov's gun, or 2 weeks ago. You're just gonna
let that guy invent it and not try it out?
Yeah, and like if you're gonna try it out and it's that fucking cool. Think about how cool that looked. Let's get rid of the factor of someone dying and like losing their family. Think about how fucking cool that would look. Seeing a 500-pound blade get dropped down on a dude. Dude, that would be crazy cool. Definitely would want to see that. But fucking, they had that and they started killing off all the prisoners. And people were like, I think it was like 50% of people were like, we need to stop killing. This is actually fucking horrifying that we've actually done this much.
They were like,
oh?
Guess who's getting killed next?
No, but it was like 50% of them that were silently thinking that. And then there was like a 50% that thought like, nah, we're all right.
Yeah.
And fucking
like Viva la Revolution.
Yeah, they're like, we love, exactly. Those were the actual psychopaths that were like,
just kill him.
Exactly. And fucking, oddly enough, that's actually where we get the term left and right. Like, whenever we're talking about politics from, is one side was sitting on the left and the other side was sitting on the right. And because it was 50-50, they came together and couldn't agree on anything. And like, we literally came up, that's how we fucking got it. But anyways, yes, please. But fucking, they were like in arguments and all the time about like not wanting to behead people. And then Maximilian Robespierre made the ultimate baller move that I fucking respect the fuck out of, dude.
Dropped a bomb one night.
Can you just tell the people about what he did one night?
So basically by that point, because it was like half of the people who were like you were saying, like the people who were like super radically like wanted the revolution to happen among the Third Estate, because I forgot to mention half the Third Estate was cool with getting dicked on by the Second and First Estate. They were like, whatever, like.
A lot of people didn't want the monarchy to crumble. They were like, no, we want to keep our king.
Yeah.
That's why they deposed his power and didn't just kill him.
Yeah. So the most radical half of that Third Estate is who became the legislative body with Robespierre and shit. And then they were split in half again, like you said, and they quite literally sat on opposite sides of the room. And one side was like still pretty radically revolutionary, but like were the ones that were like, okay, we're killing way too many fucking people. This is like insane. And then the other half was like all complete, just insane people. And like it had gotten so bad to the point of like Robespierre sentencing and like executing so many of the people in that shit that even the people that like wanted to see heads roll as much as possible were like, dude,
this is a lot.
Yeah.
Because it was like, there was one guy, sorry to cut you off, but there was one guy that did actually try and get like Robespierre out of power, and he gave him a fair trial because that was Robespierre's big thing, is that he wanted to give people fair trials. Like that's what his thing was. Yeah. He doesn't want to see people die without getting their trial. So he gave him the trial. It took about 30 seconds, and then he's like, all right, now step in this line. And like the line led up these wooden steps, and then whenever he got up there, he saw there was a crowd, and he's like, they love me. And then he got put in this little thing, the stargazing guillotine, and he fucking got his head cut off.
Oh yeah. But like literally it was to the point where like even the craziest people were like, dude, this is fucked. Like even just for their own sake, like they might get killed even though they're like all for it. And Robespierre comes in one night for like a quick little meeting, I guess, and he's like, I've got a list of like, it was like 40 something people, and I think at that point there was only like between 100 and 200 people. So that was like a fat ass chunk of people.
Oh my
and
God.
Like, and then he was like, but I'm not going to say who it is. I'm going to come in tomorrow.
What did he say that those people were doing, though?
Conspiring against the revolution.
That nigga fucking came in and dropped that bombshell. He said, 50 of you have betrayed me, and I'm not going to let you know who you are, but you know who you are. And tomorrow we're going to be dealing with it.
Dude, yeah, and then he leaves, and then everyone's like, all right, bruh, like...
No one else left. They were like,
yeah, like,
literally jaw dropped. Imagine if you were like if you're in a room with like fucking 10 people and like one dude steps up and says, 3 of you have betrayed me and you're going to die. And I'm not going to say who it is, but I'll let you know tomorrow. And then he just walks out. You guys don't like your odds. You're like, what the fuck is going on? And I bet some of them were like, oh, I bet there is that many. And then I bet that was probably like 2 people that were that crazy. Yeah,
and then everyone else was like, you know what we're going to do instead?
Tomorrow.
We're going to pull the old switcheroo on old Maxie Poo.
So whenever he got there, did he think he was going to get his... Oh! Fucking, I was about to say, did he think he was going to get to go up and get in the stargazing guillotine, or did he fucking...
Dude, no, he pulled up. He pulled up to the Legislative Assembly thinking he's just gonna nuke these motherfuckers. And then he fucking they just like arrest him at the door pretty much. And I hate that I can't remember if like the guy arresting him shot him in the face or if he shot himself in the face, but I am pretty sure that he shot himself in the face.
They weren't a fan of killing people by guns. I think they had another plan for him.
Yeah, I mean they did have another plan for him. So he shot himself in the face to try and avoid getting arrested because he was like nuts. So obviously that's like the maneuver. And he fucking blows his own jaw off to where it's like hanging off of his face. And they literally just like wrapped his head up in rags to like hold that shit together. And they threw him in a jail cell for like 2 days and then cut his fucking head off.
Nigga couldn't eat and he's just in there like, Alaskan bullworm noise. Dude, imagine not just starving for 2 days, which that's a very American concept, but fucking imagine not eating for 2 days and then fucking having your face blown off and just having
it was probably like rotten and infected.
Oh, and you're just like, fuck, just fucking kill me. I don't want to know. That's Joe, neighbor Joe, fucking whenever he's in the French Revolution.
Joe Swanson.
Yeah.
British Joe Swanson.
Oh, don't tell me. I don't want to know. But fucking Robespierre's in there, and then they take him out there and cut his fucking head off.
Hell yeah. And then they calm down after that.
Because a Corsican man that was actually advertised for the time, named Napoleon Bonaparte, actually earned himself a lot of reputation because during the entire thing, like some places were revolutionary, like whenever like Paris was the most revolutionary, some places were like it's like a map, like of a political map. Like it's like red and there's blue areas, and like it's mainly red, but like no, okay, it's different in that way. But it was like different areas were like revolutionary, and some were like, no, fuck that. Like we're fine exactly how we are.
Like especially in like the Vendée and Bordeaux, where they're quite literally fighting against the revolutionary government.
Yeah, exactly. There's like people that would outbreak and would be like, fuck that. We're going to fight against you guys because we want it the way it was.
And that was mostly because of what you were talking about earlier. They were just mad they didn't have church.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Like, bring church. And it was like the motherfuckers that took church away are the revolutionaries. So they're like, fuck you. And like they would fight back.
That whole calendar and like time system and shit.
They had something called the Church of Reason. And that's weird because it had no rhyme or reason to it. And they just changed a bunch of shit because they were just power hungry fucks. And
that Jean Marat bathtub dude ended up becoming like a martyr of the church, and they put statues of him at like holy sites.
Dude, you know how he got murked? Some woman was like, hey, I have a list of enemies of the revolution. He's like, oh, bring him in here, girl. And I don't know how people took him seriously whenever he's fucking in a bathtub filled with tea. But fucking, anyways, she's like, here it is. And then he like looks and the paper is blank and he's like, huh? And looks up and stabs him in the chest and he's dead. And like thinking that, all right, now this crazy motherfucker is done. And they're like, we don't have to worry about him. He was our hero.
It was like if Alex Jones became like a symbol of the church.
If Alex Jones got killed, I would go to every one of those fucking crisis actors' houses and let them know that I'm on to them. Because, you know, this is what I should probably stop, but I'm not going to stop myself. They are crisis actors, dude. Like, on the day of that, I saw them take somebody else out of the fucking fake elementary school that never existed. Look up Sandy Hook now. There's nothing there. It's a park. Fucking Sandy Hook, they took somebody out of there, and he also had a military vest on and some guns, and then they let him walk free. But anyways, Alex Jones, if he got killed, he would be a martyr, like Jean Marat. Or John Marat. Fucking, then he got stabbed, and they were like, we love him so much, like more. And it was bad. Like, that's when I don't know if they ramped it up then, but fucking, I don't know what point in time it was, but I think they did ramp it up, and they're like, all right, this is whenever we really need to start killing people because they killed our Lord.
It was when he wrote that shit about we need to kill the people in the Bastille. And they fucking killed every single one of them that day.
In that day, they killed all of them? God damn, that's fast.
Yeah, and like people stormed their own shit and just ripped all the prisoners out and sentenced them in like 10 seconds and then killed them.
Guilty, black, guilty. Dude, fucking, I like how the black dude gets innocent on that one. It's like, you get to go be a slave somewhere.
Oh, I thought you just said the same word 8 times in a row.
Because you don't see color. But fucking, anyways, they had, there's a bunch of revolutions against the revolution. And a man named Napoleon had a little bit of backing. The boys backed him, and so they went and put out the fucking revolutions because he was revolutionary. He was fast. He fucking set up corps so then people
he clapped out the fucking Austrians too.
No, I think that was. Oh yeah, you're right.
You got a lot of fucking clout for that.
I forgot because France decided. Like, right at the beginning of the revolution, they decided that they were going to declare war on everyone around them because everyone were monarchies at the time.
Yeah.
Austria was a monarchy. Russia was a monarchy.
They're like, well, they're just going to do it anyway, so we may as well do it first.
Yeah. And fucking people were they were mad as fuck. Prussia came and started fighting, and they're like, we need to do something. And, like, they were fighting, and, like, they had 3 different fronts that they were facing, and, like, Napoleon was fighting into Italy, and fucking they had 2 guys. He was basically a decoy because like the geography of that area, that's the Alps. Like you don't really want to go. I don't know if that's the Alps, but that's like a fucking big ass
under the Alps.
It's like a giant mountain range, and it's like you don't want to fucking be going through there. And like if you look up Napoleon, there's a cool picture of him on like a horse, and fucking that's whenever they were going through there, like to go kick Austria's ass. But they like, I think Austria was like the Italian fucking, I think they were part of the Holy Roman Empire, but didn't really fuck with them or something. And like they had the Alps to separate them, and they're like, oh, we hate those guys. And then the French were like, oh, we've liberated you guys from your torturous people, but now you're getting replaced with ours. And like fucking Italy was there, and then Napoleon went and slapped up Austria, and I think that Northern Front was like, oh shit, that guy's going straight through Italy like fucking bread. And like he fucking cut through there, and they sent people to go help, and then the Northern force burst through, and Austria quit. And then they're like,
we're sorry.
Yeah, and Napoleon got a bunch of clout from that, and he actually also from putting out counter-revolutionaries. And then he decided that he was the supreme leader, and fucking
that was also after like a couple years of their republic, like post Robespierre just being so inept. So people were already like, dude, this shit is like retarded. Half the people within that government were like, this shit is retarded. And then Napoleon pulled up on the 18th of Brumaire.
He came back.
The epic little coup.
He came back because I actually had it wrong. They sent him to like the Egypt, and he wasn't there to like fight or anything. But like he fucking was just kind of like exploring and seeing everything and getting smarter.
Found the Rosetta Stone, right?
Yeah, being actual Indiana Jones, and fucking that nigga. He went back and told everybody like how great he was, and they're like, "Oh, we love this guy." And then he fucking decided that he was the leader. I don't know exactly when, but then that fucking...
It was the 18th of Brumaire, 1799, I'm pretty sure.
Wait, is that one of the...
Brumaire's like September.
I thought it was going to be one of those goofy fucking Church of Reason months. Because they named all the months differently. It was like 100 days in a year, and 100... It was like 100 minutes are in an hour. There's 10 hours in a day. And then there's... I don't remember how they split up the months, but then every day was named something different. Like it was named after like flowers and shit.
Yeah, that shit was so lame. I remember looking at like an old copy of it in my class, and it was just hella fruity. Most French shit I ever saw.
Just literally like, we're gonna name all of our shit after flowers.
Dude, yeah, it looked like a like calendar you'd see in like a fucking 58-year-old hippie woman's bathroom.
Dude. I'm convinced that, like, women that are 45 and older and by themselves just literally psyop the fucking young hot chicks and try and make them think that, like, being without a man is the best thing they can do because they're so fucking miserable and they want someone else to live in that.
Dude, I love the word psyop.
Dude, they're fucking... They literally are doing that, dude. They're fucking doing a fucking covert op. They're fucking trying to sneak in there without them realizing it and telling them that dumbass shit. And it's like, yeah... I think that, I mean, I don't need a woman, but like, it's different for me. Fucking, I would prefer one. Yeah, I would definitely think that would be a great team, but fucking, I don't need one as in like, if someone comes in my house, like, either way, I'm going to have to go fight. Like, when the bill comes, if the girl loses her job, either way, if the girl is here or not here, I'm going to pay my fucking rent. And a lot of girls don't want to do that. And it's like, I don't want to either. And if I had the out, I would take it, but I just don't have the out. But like, ugh. I can say, that's all I can say.
Yeah. I mean, whammon moment.
Ugh. Gives me a fucking bad taste in my mouth. No homo.
Okay.
Fucking, we can call that. We didn't get over, well, let's see. Oh yeah, we failed to mention the best part about the French Revolution. Is it started with the Bourbon monarchy, then went to the revolutionary government. Then Napoleon took over for a while, did pretty good, and then
went straight back to the Bourbons.
Went right back to the Bourbons, and they were like, "Oh, awesome!"
Yeah.
So the French Revolution started out with a bunch of like normal people that were like, "We don't want to live under like a harsh thing, like a stupid monarchy where we're paying to this 13-year-old king that has no experience, when we're all working hard." And they actually had some good ideas at the beginning, and it turned right back into what it started as.
Dude, yeah, and then they tried it again 2 more times.
And that's why I hate French people. Like that, like I don't go into that enough, but like they literally revolted just to do it again multiple times and then fail it multiple times. I think they got it the last time, but fucking Jesus Christ, dude, they suck.
Dude, have you ever heard of their fucking like Paris Commune of 1870 and 1871?
No, what's that?
Like Paris like completely separated itself independently of like the rest of France for like less than a year between 1870 and 1871.
Was it like the Chav and what's it called? I was about to say Portland.
I don't know, but
you remember what Chav was, where it was the anti-cop zone and they were just fucking insane, like
It was
beating
kind
the
of
fuck
like
out
that,
of
but
each
they were
other.
actually declaring themselves as like the like Marxist fucking like just a separate little thing. It was a Parisian commune.
What did France say about that?
They surrounded them with their entire military and destroyed them.
It took them a year to do that?
Yeah.
I guess
They're
that makes
hella
sense.
inept.
That makes sense. And you want to do something like
They're
that.
getting
If you're gonna do it,
DP'd by Prussia again. And that was, okay, so that's also why the French speed ran inventing gunpowder. A little gun lore.
just because fucking they're getting fucked by the Prussians, Paris just declared itself its own thing, and they were like, all right,
They
we
didn't
need
do that
something.
because of that. I can't remember the factors that built up to that other than just like the Communist Manifesto being written by Karl Marx and shit like that. Because Karl Marx, dude, he still hated on him though, which was hella funny. After
Karl
they
Marx?
failed, yeah. Like I had to read like a article from Karl or whatever essay from Karl Marx regarding the Paris Commune, and he was just talking about how like, yeah, it was a good try by the French, but they suck basically.
Didn't he say like Karl Marx? Didn't people like misinterpret what he said a lot? And like one thing that he said is that the French were probably not going to be the ones to do it, right?
He thought Germany and England were the most likely places to do it first and right.
And he was like, if the Soviet Union does it, they're far too back in their old ways. Like, it's not going to work.
Because at that time, they were just Russia. And he thought, yeah, Russia would be literally the last place to ever be communist.
Damn. And then they were like, oh, we're going to go first. And then he was like, well, I mean, good luck. Fucking Russia's had a couple revolutions as well. You know, like the last one, well, not the last one. One of the last ones they had back whenever like Lenin actually took control was literally just a base Germany that was like, all right, we need them out of World War One. And so they had like had Lenin, like he was exiled to Switzerland, and they went and like got him, and they're like, come here. And I was like, oh, and he was just sitting there and they're like, write your communist ideals. We need you to like flip Russia. And so he's like, okay, and started spouting shit off and like sending it over there. And they're like, all right, it's not your time yet. It's not your time yet. And they had a revolution where it was the whites versus the reds. I think it was like I don't remember exactly who it was, but fucking one side, I think the Reds ended up winning out, and fucking then
in 1919.
Yes, and then they sent Lenin over afterwards to fuck him up even more.
I also took a class on that, but failed to pay attention that much.
Dude, that would be hard. The Russian Revolution is so funny though.
Yeah,
it literally just started because everyone was sick of Rasputin. Dude,
no, it wasn't even that. They like had zero respect for the monarchy whatsoever, and they were getting fucked even harder there than they like people did in Paris, to where like they had a grain shortage in 1891, I think. And like they literally just like sent people out to all the rural areas and all the farming communities, took 100% of their grain and took it to the cities.
What?
Yeah, they left them with nothing, and they all
that's
like
sick
died.
If you live in a city,
yeah,
dude, if you live in a city, that's awesome,
dude. Yeah, that was a real gamer maneuver, I guess.
That's where people were eating each other. Like cannibalism was a big thing during that time, multiple times in Russia. But
dude, I forget what that shit was called. But 1891 was a big catalyst year for everything changing in Russia.
Think about how much different shit was over in America just because we were so isolated. Like, that was like cowboys and shit. Like, exploring. Mm-hmm. And like fucking...
What's interesting, though, is it's funny, like, since those two eras coincided, Russia... like did not have that many modern guns. Like 1891 is the year that they came out with the Mosin Nagant, which is like one of the most mass-produced rifles ever. But like before that, like they got a shit ton of their guns for their military in small batches from America, and it was a bunch of like cowboy guns.
Really?
Yeah.
What's
like,
that fucking John Wayne line where he's like, the strongest gun in the world or some shit like that?
No clue.
Fucking,
I'm not a John Wayne enjoyer, unfortunately.
You and Jimbo said it to each other one time, I swear. You were talking about like the Colt pistol, and you were like, fuck. I mean, be talking about Clint Eastwood.
Oh, wait. Are you talking about the fucking Dirty Harry 44 Magnum quote?
What does he say about it?
When he's like... do
his voice, too.
He has two dumbass quotes that are like almost the same though. One was just for his like Smith & Wesson Model 27 revolver, and then the other one was in a later Dirty Harry when he had the fucking 44 auto mag. The first one was he was like 40, or he was like some shit like Smith and Wesson Model 27, chambered in 44 Magnum, powerful enough to blow a man's head clean off. And then the next one. True? I mean, if you shot someone in the head with a 44 Magnum, the back of their head would be gone. The front of it would probably be fine, though. Damn. It's always a little entrance hole, big exit hole. But fucking...
What was the other one?
And then I swear, like 2 movies later, he's got this auto mag, which in real life is like the shittiest gun of all time, by the way. Like, they're like a legendarily memed gun because they're like $3,000. Use the most like niche ammunition that's only made by 2 companies, and like the design has been owned by like 7 different gun manufacturers that all fucked up making it over time, so it jams like every shot pretty much. But he used it in the movie because it was cool at the time and futuristic. And he's like, I forget what the gun's called though, but he's like, this is a semi-automatic auto mag chambered in 44 AMP. He was like, some say it's powerful enough to blow the fingerprints off. Like,
what? Yeah. Dude, Clint Eastwood, he's another guy that should stay away from acting. Like, he makes interesting movies, I guess, whenever he's not... Well, I don't know. I guess Gran Turismo was fucking good, but he was just like him being himself.
That was just the time, too, though, I feel like. I mean, Dirty Harry were just like action movies of their day.
Dude, back in the day, I think it was like movies used to be like a joke and people wanted to get on TV. Or no. It was TV was a joke and people wanted to be in movies. But then now it's like fucking everyone wants to be on TV because it's like, it just makes more sense.
Watched a fucking movie like that's actually
in
new.
Theaters?
I mean, yeah.
Oh, Spider-Man, the one with the 3 Spider-Mans. But before that,
never seen that.
Before that, it was Endgame, Avengers Endgame.
I'm trying to think of what the last movie I saw in a theater was.
Was it here?
I've watched 1 movie in the theater since I've lived here, I think.
What was it? Comedy? Horror? Action?
Dude, it was fucking, the Sparks movie theater plays like old movies certain nights of the week, and fucking me and my ex-girlfriend went and watched The Phantom of the Opera.
Faggot. Yeah, you're a faggot. You should have kept that to yourself. We got
hammered in the movie theater, though.
That's kind of fucking lit. Dude, movies suck. Like, I just finished watching You. Have you seen that?
That's about...
You would remember, I think.
No shot.
It's about... The first season is about a dude... Well, I mean, it's all about the dude named Joe Goldberg.
The Creed guy, right? I vaguely know about it, but I have not seen it at all.
Well, I'm about to spoil it. I mean, this season has been out for like fucking 10 months, and I just figured out about it now because I bought Netflix to watch the Dahmer thing. But fucking, like, the last season... Okay, basically, first season, he's stalking a hot girl. All of her friends, one of her friends specifically hates him a lot because she's gay for her and wants to fuck her. And like, he ends up killing pretty much everyone around her. Then she realizes that he's crazy, and he ends up killing her. And then he has to dip. And then his ex-girlfriend that he thought he had killed actually survived and came back and like almost fucking got him, but he had a crazy serial killer girlfriend that he didn't know was a serial killer that ended up killing a couple people herself to get with him, and he killed some people and then to be with her, and then they ended up being together and having... He was about to kill her because he's like, this bitch is crazy. Like, whenever he realized... Like, he killed this girl's mom that was just like a nice lady that he knew, and then he's like, all right, this bitch is out of her mind, and he was just about to do it, and then she's like, wait, I'm pregnant, and then he didn't do it because he's like, fuck, can't kill my kid. Like, I don't know why he is so honorable about that. I would have killed her right there.
Extra. You'd have killed her super hard.
Yeah. I'm like, all right, well, now I have to make sure the kid is dead in there too. That's why I'm pro-abortion, because I don't care about killing people. But fucking, I was talking to Kyle earlier. I think that abortion, we should just come together and agree that women have the right to choose. They have the right to choose to murder their baby, and they have to acknowledge that they're murdering their baby, and then I don't care.
Do it, though.
Yeah, go ahead. I don't care, but you have to acknowledge that you're murdering the baby, or like what would be a baby.
Fair.
Like if I was, Bill Burr has an excellent bit on it. He's talking about it. He's like, if I was making a cake and like I put it in the oven, like did all the work on it, and then you came, opened the oven, and threw it out all over the floor, and I was like, what did you just destroy my cake? You couldn't just be like, what's not a cake yet? He's like, fuck you. Yeah. Dude, but fucking, what were we just talking about? Fuck. We were talking about fucking women
Dirty Harry being retarded.
Oh, you. That
Okay,
show.
yeah.
Fucking, so then he is about to kill that bitch and fucking she's pregnant. And then season 3 is about, they moved away. By the way, that was all in LA because he moved from New York. Then they moved to somewhere that I don't think they disclosed in season 3. And, they were basically
What was it like?
It was a suburban town, really nice. Like, it's a place where you would go and hide if you're a serial killer. You don't really want to be, like, in a place where you're nervous. Because they're like, we're done killing. Like, we're just going to be a family. And, like, we're done. We want to be in a safe area. And so, Joe starts fucking the neighbor. Well, he almost fucks the neighbor that's so hot. And, like, I wish it, like, literally, I wanted her to be alive the entire time. But fucking, he, like, steals panties from her because he's obviously a creep. And fucking is about to fuck her, and like literally starts making out with her, and it's like no, and then goes back home. And luckily his wife had like gotten mad at him and like stormed out and gone to stay with the mom and came back, and like luckily he didn't fuck her because then he would have been mid fuck and then like came back home like with the sex smell on him and everything. But that didn't happen.
Sex smell.
You know what that is. Yeah. But fucking he didn't do it, and she's like, he fucked her, and like he hadn't been fucking her for a while, and then she ended up finding out through somehow that like through gossip that the neighbor was known to cheat. And Joe had said like, oh yeah, I went over and talked to her. She is crazy. I'm glad we're not friends with her. And then like she was super nice to his girlfriend's name, the serial killer's name is Love. And fucking she ends up like making a close bond with her. And she's like, I want to buy this shop. And like she's like, make it a bakery, because she's like really good at fucking baking shit. And she's like, oh awesome, I'm a realtor, I can help you find that. And like she takes her to the area, and she's like, oh yeah, can I see the basement? And then like you find out that Love found Joe's little creep box with like her panties and like a fucking scarf. She had like cut herself with like glass on accident, and like she used her scarf to clean it. Joe also snagged that and like had it in his little hidey box. And it's like cutting in between scenes where like you see her finding out about that, and she's going downstairs, and then she like turns around to see her, and Love has a fucking axe and kills her, like swings and cuts it, and like Joe has to help her hide the body. Turns out her like husband, like, because she was cheating as well, fucking is a tech giant that like can steal people's information and shit and like look at everything, and he ends up pretty much cracking the code. But that's way later. Fucking someone else finds out. Oh, no. Sorry, I'm jumping around. But fucking, their baby gets fucking measles. And this is where it gets weird. And then Love finds out that it was because this anti-vaxxer guy, which they made a point in the show where I was like, okay, come on now. And like they're like talking to the doctor about measles. And the doctor says, the baby has measles, by the way. And he's like, yeah, it's crazy. Even in the time of COVID, people still don't get vaccinated. And I'm just like, there's no way that they would say that to the baby with measles. It's like, oh, baby has COVID. It's only like he has a fucking 99.99% chance of surviving. But your baby with measles, yeah, fucking fuck that. We'll talk about COVID. But fucking, anyways, the dad like comes and admits it to her, and Love fucking she knocks that dude over the head. Joe fucking goes and like helps get him in a cage, and like they're like, what are we gonna do? We have to find some dirt on him to make sure that like he won't snitch on us, because like they have him in a soundproof area. It's the basement of the bakery. Like in season 1 there was a very similar cage to it, to where Joe would get locked in sometimes. And fucking anyways, they fucking they have that guy down there, and they find out that his son is like a fucking rapist and like rapes women and like has done it before in college. And they're like, we know that your son did this. And like he's like, oh, like the guy is devastated. He's like, it's all my fault. Like I should have known. Like he was like, I had those urges back when I was a kid, and like it's all on me for not like believing that he's gonna be a good boy. And like they're like, all right, yeah, we'll stew on that. And they go upstairs and like, yeah, we fucking got him. Like that dude's definitely not gonna tell. They go downstairs. The dude hung himself, and they ended up killing 2 birds with 1 stone. And they took his dead body, and they Joe not hit it. He put it in his house, like broke into his house with the dead body and hung it up like exactly like it was. And then put that, cause his son really was a rapist, and like fucking put a suicide note saying that like, oh, I'm so sorry that I did this and like it's my fault. And then he said that he'd killed the lady cause he realized that he couldn't have her. Yeah. And so they dodged that bullet, but then you find out that the dad is still investigating, and he wants to get revenge on whoever it is. And basically, I'm going to skip ahead because I don't want to go too far into this, but fucking at the end of it, I'll just spoil the end. Fucking, he finds out that Love is the serial killer that fucking killed his wife, because she is, and doesn't know that Joe had any part of it, but Love had fucking not poisoned him. She was like talking to him about how like she had killed her husband, and the mom had told like Joe, because there's a lot of shit that went into that. Mom was an alcoholic, took the baby to a vineyard to burn it down because the husband was going to take it back in a divorce. And, Love was like, yeah, you can't ever be near my kid again. And as Joe was like taking her to leave and like go to rehab, she's like, Love killed her first husband. And like Joe brings that up to her because like he's like, I'm about to kill her, and like I'm about to dip with this other librarian bitch that I was with. And I forgot to bring her up. Yeah, because Love has killed like multiple people and like made Joe have to deal with it. And like he's like, fuck that. And like there's more. Fuck, you gotta go a little bit deeper. Love was fucking the neighbor dude's son that was like 19 years old. And he ends up finding two people. Oh my God, there's two people that are in the cage currently because they heard Love's crazy ass scream, I killed Sherry for you. And they're like about to have an orgy, and they go upstairs and like, they're like, Joe's like, they probably fucking heard that. What the fuck did you do that for? Why would you fucking say? And then like, and it's just like, and they go back upstairs and they're like, hey guys, we're still down. Like, just get on the bed. And like, then they try and take off, and they end up getting those two, capturing them and putting them in that cage. Love, because he was fucking that kid, and she was like, oh, I need you to find out what your dad knows about me. Cause like were the ones that killed the wife, and they wanted to know if they're guilty. And the kid's like, oh, well, I'm going to go fucking see the bakery for some reason, because he's like, I want to see what the fuck is there. Goes downstairs, doesn't find anything because it's like in a little hidden spot. Then Love earlier in the show had put a gun like in the thing where like there's like a slide through where like it's all bulletproof, by the way. She's like, yeah, I'm putting this here, one of you kill the other one and I will let you walk. And they're like, no, I don't want to do that. And so like, anyways, they're fucking in the cage. The kid comes, finds it, and is about to get them out. And then Love sees the kid, and is like, oh yeah, like, just please run away and leave. Like, you can't let them out. And he's about to do it. And then she's like, hey, real quick. And then he turns around and she fucking hits him in the head with a pan, and he falls down the stairs, and like, I think it's paralyzed almost, and fucking, she thought he was dead, and Joe goes to like hide the body, then he realizes he's still alive, and he's like, this fucking bitch didn't even kill him, right? And he's like, alright, well, I'm not fucking killing him. I've killed enough people for this bitch, I'm done. And so he fucking takes the kid to the hospital. Yeah, and like gives him, whenever the orgy guys came over, he had a bunch of drugs, he had like injected him something to put him to sleep. Not kill him, but left him on the steps so he couldn't be like, oh, it was this guy. And like, Joe had rescued him. He's like, it was Love the whole time. And he's like, yeah, she tricked me too. He's like, are you going to kill me? And he's like, no, definitely not. Took him to the hospital and dropped him off because he's like, fuck Love. I'm dipping with this librarian bitch soon. He had killed another dude for her that was like her ex, dickhead. There was a whole story, and they tried to bring racism into it. Dude, this is gonna just turn into me ranting about shows I've seen every week. But fucking, this bitch, the librarian's a mixed bitch, and the entire time she's just like, yeah, whenever the system's set up against you, so you fail. She was a junkie that had a kid with this white dude that ended up going and getting his life right and being like a news reporter. He's a dick that did drugs, and who cares? He wasn't like doing anything to harm people, but he wanted to keep his daughter away from his wife because she was a junkie, and he didn't know that she was clean. And fucking, rightfully so. Good on him. And he'd let her get visitational rights, but she wanted to like dip with the kid permanently. But then the system's all against her is what the fucking moral of it was. And he kills the dude, and like she's like, yeah, I'm happy about it. And Joe's like, yeah. We're like, she didn't know that Joe was the one that killed him, but he was like, you can't be sad about this. And she's like, oh no, I'm not sad. I'm happy that they did it. And he was like, and like she brought up the idea of them dipping out like on Love, and like because he had said we're getting divorced, and she fucking is about to dip with Joe. Joe's like trying to clean up the mess, and like as quickly as he can so he can kill Love and dip. And fucking Love is at the table to talk to him, and he's like, I want a divorce. Because like he was about to kill her, and then he's like, I want a divorce. And then he's like, for what you did to your ex? And she was like, yeah, I gave him I forgot what it's called, but some pill to make him paralyzed. And she was like, but the thing is I got the dose wrong, but I'll never do that again. That's why this time I did it through your skin. Or she didn't say through your skin, but she said this. That's why this time I'm letting it see in through the skin. And he like, and like passes out and like is completely stuck. And he's like, yeah. She's like, yeah. And I know you've been cheating on me. And like calls the bitch and is like, come here, like the light skinned bitch, and is about to mark her in front of Joe. And then she's like, she actually just tells like her that Joe killed the dude. And she's like, you should run away now. And like, that's the bitch wanted to do that anyway. So she's like, all right. And, you think that Love is about to kill her though. And like, then Joe fucking is like on the ground and like literally can almost be seen. And like, Love is like, yeah, you're lucky. And like, was like, I'm going to go do something. And the dude came in, like the next door neighbor came in and like sees Joe on the ground and is like, where's my son? And like, he like somehow like, kind of tells him like motions over with his eyes to his phone, and then like he opens up his phone and like fucking he's like, you're like in his mind he's like, you're a tech giant, go through the search history. And like it was the hospital that he dropped him off at, and he's like, yeah, no police, because Joe was like, no, don't call the police. And then he was like the dude was like, all right, no police. And he's like, I'm not gonna help you, you got exactly what you deserve for letting Love kill my wife and not saying anything. And like, he had actually taken care of him when Joe thought he had the measles for like 2 seconds. And he was like, oh, I was nice to you and you're in my house and you knew your wife killed mine. Fuck you. I hope she kills you too. And then Joe is like sitting there, and like after the light skinned bitch is like sent away and is like fucking gone, she's like, yeah, and now I'm going to kill you. And like has a knife and is about to get him. And Joe fucking sticks a syringe in her, and he's like, oh, you thought I didn't notice that you're growing this thing outside? And it's basically just plot twist on plot twist. And he's like, I knew from the time that we were here that you were growing this plant, and I wanted to see what it was. And I found out that it's called wolfsbane, and that people use it to make this certain type of paraplegic. So I took adrenaline in this thing that are the cure, which you actually did see him do earlier in the show. And he's like, and I knew that it was going to work. And now I have you. And then he's like, and I got you. And like he had injected her, and he's like, and it's going to burn, and it's going to go through your veins, and you're going to feel every fucking bit of it like you deserve. And you're going to die here. And fucking she died, and then he framed her by sending an email out to like the entire HOA saying like, oh, I'm a something for feminism. And like, he was really smart. Like he set it up to where like Love did a murder-suicide and like killed Joe. And the only way that he'd done that is he had fucking, oh God, he took a butcher knife, dude, put it on his toes, had like one of those hammers he used to mash like mashed potatoes, and fucking had a wooden spoon in his mouth and chopped off 2 of his toes, put one of them in the food that Love had made, and then put the other one in like this little box of like knickknacks that Joe had kept off his dead victims, and laid it right next to Love's dead body, and like had burned the house down, and like wrote a whole thing to them like saying like, I'm a queen for feminism and I couldn't take it, so I killed my dumb husband. And like the town ended up loving Love and thinking that she was like a super awesome figure, and was like, oh yeah, like they would sell shirts that were like the well-behaved women don't change history and shit like that. And like then you see Joe in France, and he's after that girl that had dipped out. yeah, that's how it fucking ended. It was sick. So part 2 comes next year.
Nice.
We can call that an episode, though. You had the ranting as a madman for an hour and a half. I'm not going to put you through anymore.